Dan, we didn't really get a chance to talk about, are we on?
Yes.
Okay. We didn't really get a chance to talk about agenda other than what articles would be coming.
Right.
I thought if it's acceptable for you guys, maybe we'd start with your presentation. We have a few standalone articles, and I think you probably have a few, and then do our bundle last. Does that make sense for you?
I think I'm
Yeah,
good.
however makes sense.
Okay.
We're open to.
I'm good with that. So
Perfect. So
it's not really a presentation.
I would say it's a presentation. Yes, exactly.
Oh.
Information sharing.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I just
So-
used the words you did.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yes. So I'll pass those around. Just one sheet and pass the stack.
Wrong.
Right.
One.
Sorry. No. That's what.
I take two.
So yeah.
Sorry.
So we wanted to be able to put some numbers to all the proposals and calculate costs so that we can all kind of be on the same page, figure out what things actually cost so that we can continue to make progress. We'll say we started kind of looking at this, focused only on Article 3 and Article 4 alone. Only because as we started doing the calculations, we realized we need to kind of see where we are with 3 and 4, and then we can start looking at the additional pieces. We didn't calculate any of the additional paid holiday, any sick leave cash out, any of the vacation for 10 and 11-month staff, any other financially impacting pieces are not part of the calculation. So just wanted to give the background. So what we've done is provided you with the actual costs for 2022, 2023 for every classified employee in the actual positions they were in. We have some additional SNA needs next year. We have additional, or whatever that becomes. We have additional staffing that we're adding next year, so I wanted to make sure we're doing apples to apples. So I didn't want to say, okay, here's what the costs were in 22, 23, and here's what they're going to be in 23, 24. So instead, took each of our 4 proposals, 2 of the districts, 2 of OSEAs, and just overlaid those pay scales on the 22-23 positions as they were filled. So this is literally exactly what it would have cost in 22-23 to do these. Because we're not going to factor in steps. I mean, that's already a given.
Right.
That's not an added cost. Although it increases our costs every year, it's not cost of the proposals. We really, truly wanted to look at what are the added costs. So we've added the actuals in the first column, and then the 4 proposals as they came out, and what exactly it would do to wages, the evening differentials, the longevity. Had to make some assumptions on certain things because we don't have the data to know how many stipends would be given out and how many people are going to be out on paid leave Oregon. So I did put that information down at the bottom, what we used as assumptions, and obviously, wanted to just be transparent on where those figures came from. So essentially, that's just what we wanted to share with you guys, and show where everybody's at, show kind of what the costs are. Again, we were about 6.6 million in just wages. That's not loaded costs. That's just pure gross pay in 22-23. And so going from there, obviously, as wages go up, the cost of taxes and PERS go up. It's not. It's just an added dollar cost, right? Taxes and PERS average, and this is literally just taxes and PERS average about 35.7% for classified. So that's where that figure down at the bottom, taxes and PERS line will always be a 0.357 on wages. So.
Any questions on that at all?
I apologize, I did want to also add on the insurance, Article 4. So the 531 proposal was, I believe, jumped to $1,800 per month, plus the pooling. So the 621 proposal represents essentially the cost of the pooling. The pooling adds almost $1 million, about $950,000. So.
Okay. So just so I can understand your page here, so the first proposal from you guys has the $1.25, all that, and the insurance moves up another actually, does that in the first year? Actually, it doesn't.
Our insurance did not change, we put everything into wages
Right.
on our first
Okay.
proposal, correct.
But it did not include the reshuffling of the steps.
Correct.
And that's
Yes.
what's reflected in your second piece here.
Correct.
And that's
It-
the only change, right?
Yeah, in wages, yes,
Yep. Okay.
yes.
I'm just making sure I understood.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
You said step, but I think you meant, so what, the column placements?
The
Yes, sorry.
IA1, IA2,
Right.
Yes.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
The alphabet.
The alphabet.
Yeah.
soup.
Yes.
So, okay, that answers the question that I had. And I see even though we're at 1 year and you're at 3 here, you did make some notations down here, which is helpful too, to talk
Which
about
is-
other things that you're thinking about if it is a multi-year contract. Yep. I think we understand this. I mean, is there any questions from our team?
I will in a little bit.
Okay, we'll caucus and we'll come back then.
Yeah.
All right, and then, can it hold a minute or? Can we-
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, all right. So, why don't we do some standalone articles if that's okay with
Yeah.
you? Okay. Why don't you handle all this out just for their side? We got ours over here. Actually, give me one. I can do one.
Thank you.
He's so special. The president never leaves something out. So what the heck?
You guys want to keep a copy for
Oh,
Scott and for
Scott's with
Owen?
them, yep.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Put one there, whoever's gonna
Thank
get
you.
there. Thank you.
So Article 11, we've kind of went way down the rabbit hole with this, so I dug us the way back out. At least we're going to be talking about the same things, I think, when we have this discussion. How I recall it is you originally wanted to be able to not involve the union if it's an agreeable change between the employee and the. So what we've done below here is you'll see, first of all, I scratched out A because I think with the addition of the above, these people will know by August 15th what they're doing. So that was the intent there. If I'm getting that wrong, please speak up. And then down, I made a D, which says what it says there. Basically, if you're shifting them half hour one way or the other, you don't need to involve the union as long as they stay in the same benefits and range and status range. So I think that attempts to reach what you're talking about. I think B, we still have a disagreement on that, but maybe with number 4 below work schedule, and then I just laid that out. All I did is move the title from above down below. It seemed to fit better there. And I believe the rest of the language below that we're largely in alignment on because a lot of it's current language. So that's what I tried to do there. At least if we're having an argument about B, if we decide we can have that, then we'll be talking about B if D does what you need it to do. And I think that's it for 11. So, maybe go for another round. Thanks, Mark. And even though 19 was originally, we've got them. Go ahead and do that. But even though 19 was originally a bundled proposal of sick leave, there's a lot that we're agreeing on. So I thought I would just keep it out, at least for now, as a standalone. Under B, the attorneys are back from vacation. I'm told that this is not allowed. I was very clearly told that their legal opinion is this is not allowed. You cannot take money back out of their check. It's a violation of BOLI. However, proration essentially for mid-year hires is fine. So that's what you see reflected here. I still have that struck because I'm still being, and I double and triple checked it with 2 different folks. So I'm still being told that BOLI says that's no-go. So we don't want the contract that's illegal language. I mean, I guess we could leave it in there and then they could just go to BOLI, but I would rather not even open that can of worms. So under B, you'll see that we've struck everything except for the first sentence, and we've added the proration for part-time employees and mid-term hires. So down below under D, we still have tier 1, tier 2. We're going to get a lot of people thinking, because unfortunately they don't read the contract as much as we'd like, they're going to think that this applies to them when it doesn't. I know we can put eligible or may apply. I think if we just put tier 2, 1 tier 2, people are going to, is that me? Hey Kim, hey Dan, hey Vance, is that me? No, you're officer. That's not you, right? So I think that's it doesn't seem, I don't think it costs you anything, and it definitely, I think, would help clarify or at least have people asking the right questions. The remainder of the page is green. It's green on the next page down to number 4. We're still waiting to hear back from the district on this proposal, which is why you see it in yellow here, because you've already seen it, about cash out sick leave. Above at this proposal is 20 days, which would be 1 full month. And the rest of the stuff I believe we're in alignment on for the rest of the article.
Haven't reached here, Brian?
And can you send it to me digitally?
I will do that right now.
Thank you so
Yes,
much.
absolutely.
And I'll do the same for articles.
That'd be great. Actually, Dan, you want to just forward that to Justin?
Yes.
Thank you. Sorry.
All right. So, term of agreement, obviously we're not agreeing on the term of agreement, but we're agreeing to the language up above that you proposed back at us about such agreement shall begin on or after April 1st, because we seem to have never hit that target. We still have in yellow the cross of 23, because we're still showing a 1-year duration from above, below, below, we're crossed out, we still show 24 above. Now, 3 and 4, it kind of struck me, I could have sworn Dan and I put this in, the number 4 in there last time. But before we get to that, 3 is already, what it's saying here is already in those articles. So it just feels redundant and unnecessary. Both those articles have provisions if we can't reach agreement, exactly like it states here. So I just crossed it off. It just feels like something we don't need. But please double check those articles and make sure that I've got that right. But 4, I could have swore that we put this in back in 2020, Dan. I don't know. Maybe we just talked about it, but this is just process. It just really spells out the process when we have successor agreement. I mean, it's the law. So I don't see there should be a lot of issue with this. This is really just for the layperson reading this contract that knows, hey, this is 150 days is what the law says. Here's the ORS. I can go look it up. There's nothing to grieve here. I guess if we don't have agreement in 150 days, that process is very clearly spelled out. So there's no way anybody can file agreements. We really truly view this as a chance for people to learn and understand how the process works. And so we've included it. I mean, every other section we have expedited bargaining based on this or that or the other, right? It makes sense to have this here because it's not expedited bargaining, to have something in here that says this is this process. And that's the intent there. And then I think that's going to be it for our standalones. And I recognize you guys have some too. So there's no questions on any of those. We turn the floor back over to you guys.
So we have for Article 18, emergency school closure, we're maintaining our position of our June 21st proposal. And the two areas there where we would rather retain the language around bargaining longer closures versus the sentence that ensures that there's an unlimited closure. We'd rather bargain the terms of what happens if there's longer. And then, we're also not agreeing that it's the teacher's contracted or the teacher's schedule is going to, what classified folks are going to do is incumbent on what happens with the teachers. That process is outlined during the calendaring time, so we're rejecting that proposal.
So just to be really clear though, for point of clarification, if we're creating one process, we don't need that sentence, this is a limited leave. I think we talked about this a little bit, but we just want a process that's unified, like the surrounding districts. This is what happens when there's emergency closures. That's it. So just to clarify that one point.
Got it.
Yeah.
And then we have a new proposal on training that we're retitling Training, Safety, and Professional Development.
So would this be an encounter to the safety article we've done as well?
We've incorporated some language from the safety article.
Just trying to keep my score sheet, right?
Yep. So,
Two.
Oh, there you go.
Get 2 extras, so there you go.
sort of did some little bit of reorganizing, but the first thing is we on number 5 is was in your safety proposal that it was a language you had agreed to with North Santiam. We amended a little bit to talk about labor management. We added a sentence there, but it's largely what you had reached agreement with in North Santiam. And so that's one component of your proposal that we thought it went best in this article, since it kind of follows this number 4 that talks about number 3 and number 4 talking about training and making sure people are working in safe conditions. So so that's the proposal there. And then we restructured the professional development to, I think this gets at what you were asking for. I know your proposal was 20,000, but we bumped it up to 15,000 per fiscal year, and then said for tuition, training, licensing, or fees for so kind of just like it can cover all these things. And it's individual employee requests shall not exceed $750. So again, doesn't matter whether it's tuition, which you had calculated that's kind of where we landed at that, because that was a calculation you'd given us. And so it doesn't matter whether it's tuition, professional development course, a license, or a fee, it's $750. And then so I know there's concerns about, limitations being imposed, and so, we did say there's an application for funds, and approval will be based upon classes relevant to an employee's work assignment, other district positions, or in the pursuit of a teaching license. Classes for personal growth may receive approval with the recommendation of the immediate supervisor. So you gave some examples, I think, that, I can't remember what was one of them. Organization,
Yeah.
time management.
Right.
So if a supervisor says, yeah, it's not relevant to their work, but, not relevant to their professional growth, but could help them in their capacity. So, so we added with the immediate supervisor saying, yeah, they could benefit from that. So hopefully that helps. We certainly don't want to say no for personal growth classes, but there needs to be some kind of checks there, I guess.
Okay.
And then we moved down. We kept the tuition reimbursement language, but didn't have the Western Oregon piece there. And then we kind of restructured. We put the March 31st if they can reapply if there's funds still available.
Is that because in September is when it gets repopulated?
July 1. Is typically, now, not to say it couldn't be spelled out differently, but we typically do fiscal year.
Right. Well, no, why I'm asking is because my understanding with this, the old fund, is that if there was, I'm Vance and I used my 450 or what it was back then, and then come 1st of July, because the new year's coming, if there was still like $4,000 left in there or something, I could apply to cover the other half of my training. Say it was $900 training, I could cover the other half, but not until everybody else had a chance at it. So that's the
intent.
Oh, okay. Because you push it into another year is why I'm asking the question. Because your fiscal year starts July 1st and ends June 30th, right?
So we're saying as of March 31st, whatever's left, we open it back up and you may reapply.
Oh, I see.
Everybody could have a chance for another.
Someone could say,
because-
hey, I know if there's more money, I'm going to take another 3-credit class at Western for,
Or
something like that. Or, hey, there's another course I want to take.
I had put out $2,000, I got my $750 back.
Right.
Now I want to apply for another $750 towards my one-time $2,000 cost.
Yes.
We're mirroring it after our license that
So-
has worked really well, so.
So that would basically April 1st, basically.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and I'm not saying no to anything, I'm just trying to understand.
Right.
I'm on a trimester system. My new classes start in April. Am I competing with those people that are getting their second batch of funds?
It technically could be. So
Yeah.
we're open to adjustments
Yeah.
on those types of details. It's just sometimes when there's funds left, if somebody has expenses in excess of their $750, let's make them available. But you're right, you don't want to exclude someone. So could there be could it be pending but not payable until June 15th?
Well, yeah, I just
You know,
trying to
round
make sure I
two.
understand, yeah.
Round twos come after all round ones have been processed by May 31st. Yeah, but we really do need to try to do it on a fiscal year if we can.
No, and I think that was the intent before. That's why it ended June 30th, the start of the first, but that just doesn't like there's enough of a window for you. So that's what we're really talking about. That's easier to understand. Okay, thank you.
So,
All right.
that's it?
And is that it for your proposals?
Yes.
All right, then.
Article 23.
Oh,
So Article 23, we're staying with our 621 proposal, and I know that we're going to be, I think part of your package proposal has discipline on it, so we might, but we're staying with current contract language, which continues to have that sentence around engaging in a legal strike could lead to discipline, including discharge, so.
and this package will not show you the language to that event. I was hoping you would provide it, but fair enough. You'll see
Okay.
what I have, and maybe it'll be a place to slide that in.
Okay.
I think the big thing is just putting all the discipline in one place. I think that's really a big piece of this, so.
Absolutely.
And we have ours, so it's just for them. Oh, yeah, that's right, I gave it to you. Yeah, that's right, I gave it to you, I think I remember.
And for you.
Thank you.
And there's one that goes there too.
Yeah, I just dropped one there. And over here for Scott.
All right, so this bundle, I don't know why it says 410 Article 2 up above there. I don't know what that's all about, so please cross out the 410. Don't know what happened there. What's the fat finger there, the title?
Which one?
Wait, title?
It says 710.
What? Why does mine have it?
Here, would you like, oh, this one says 410 also.
Oh, weird.
Uh-oh. Does anybody else have a 410?
Here.
I think
I
it's this
got
one back.
Actually,
Mine looks good.
this one here is actually 410. That's not why it says 410. So I'll switch that with Scott.
Okay.
Because they were supposed to print one single-sided, they printed double-sided. So I figured that way you could make any notes you needed to if you wanted to on there. So we'll cross out the 410, I don't know what happened there, but the rest of it should be fine. So with the work session, I think we did boil down some of the points, so I think we're helpful that way. We think this language can be a much simpler application than trying to put in all this other stuff and trying to make it all different things. Temporary employees should be temporary employees. I noticed I had 60 in another part, but not up here. I just had it crossed out, so I added that line for 60 above here under D. But B, under substitutes, the intent here is that you can have substitutes when people that are in those jobs are not here. I mean, that's the intent of it. And this contract allows for, one year leave of absences, which you can have a substitute under this language, 3 months for PLO or whatever, or FEMLA or OFLA or any of those things, vacations, sick leave. I mean, this is how substitutes should be used, at least from our side of the table. And we think this language makes that clear. Now, I know we had some discussions about possibly posting them in slightly more creative ways to make it, because the public doesn't understand what our contract says, so, and we can work through that process. I don't think that's a problem. This is meant to do exactly what it says. If you have an employee here who is going to come back, as far as you know, is coming back to the job, you have the right to utilize a substitute to cover them. Okay. Up above, we restored the substitutes. The substitutes are not part of the unit. That law is gone. Did not make it off the Senate floor, so that language is back to the current contract. If you turn the page, now you're not going to see anything new on Article 3 and Article 4 primarily. There's a couple small spots because we haven't seen anything new either, so we're just kind of going back and forth a little bit with a few odds and ends here. You turn to the very last page where you notice your graph, title, view title, column placement. So after meeting through our folks, Dan made a good point in the work session that we hadn't really responded to this, even though we kind of talking about it. So the team came up with a slight alteration of this based, and we can go into some of the details why if you'd like. But basically the green indicates the areas where we're, in this bundle, we're in agreement. And we moved Title I, Special Needs, and Media Assistant to G. Would you like some clarification on why that is?
Yeah.
What is
Well,
in my 10 years at Silver Falls School District, I continually have my FSC employees come to me, and they're complaining about how they have to be trained to do what they're doing. They do feeding tubes, they deal with seizures, they have to change them like an infant. I mean, what they're required to do is something I wouldn't want to do. And so I feel, and I know others have come to me and said, why are we not at a higher pay for that? So the media assistant, most of our media assistants in the district are basically librarians, doing the job of a librarian. Why are they not being compensated for that? That's basically why.
And I think in both cases, you don't really want to have the people that are willing to work for the least amount of money show up. And if any of my experience in life has taught me that you pay a little more competitive wage, you tend to get a little bit better candidate pool. And so we think, especially with people dealing with sensitive issues, as Lisa described, we want to have people that are true professionals in those jobs, making sure that safeguarding us all in the district and us both for various reasons. You'll notice that is moved up one column also. It's jumped up by one from F to G to show that differentiation from the other F's on the page there. So if you turn to question, yes?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Where's
so
the
I'm-
IA3 from?
Excuse me?
Where's the IA3 coming from, the job description? 'Cause we
Oh, you know what? We
presented a
just
1 and
changed the
2.
number because of when you shift this, you have some that are twos and some that were twos that were in one column and some that were twos in another column. So we just added to IATs, I believe, down here on the special needs down here under I. We've made it a 3, just so it's easier to differentiate because they're different pay scale levels.
Well, but
we didn't
we're-
change your proposed job description. We didn't change any of that.
well, you gave it a new name,
Yeah.
Well, we added a 1 to it, yes. So it's a 3. But I mean,
but
that's to recognize the pay. If that's the sticking point, we can certainly shift that.
well,
I just don't know how you differentiate them when people down here on G say, why am I not getting, I?
well, so Lisa's explanation was, I think, in alignment with what our proposal was, that the people that you described is, they are in I. The differences that you've outlined, you gave an explanation as to why media assistant is different, but you haven't given an explanation as to why Title I assistant and special needs assistant is in a different placement than what our job descriptions said.
And jump in if I get this wrong, Vance, but I believe that they were lumped in with educational assistant, which they felt that they had more duties than those folks.
Right, the LRC folks believe that what they're doing is not general ed
Yeah.
students.
We are uniformly against that proposal. We've talked about this for 6 months. We are one of the only districts that have been doing it the way we've been doing it, and that work looks very similar.
So why does Cascade have 3 different IA3 levels? Right, I mean, you're saying that there isn't a difference. Why would another school district have a difference?
Or Dallas, for that matter. Have you guys compared it to those?
Dallas has LRC workers and general education workers in the same pay.
I just know they have 3 levels.
And we do have our special needs program assistant as a 3rd level. I mean, it's not IA3, but, we do have a 3rd level for those higher needs. I mean, we could call the special needs IA3. But, yeah, I think the hard part for us was looking at the work and the job descriptions. The work was equivalent, small group instruction for those who need additional supports in gen ed or special ed. An LRC classroom is for students that are in a general ed classroom the majority of the day.
But the district recognized that LRC is more difficult previous to your guys' proposal, right? It was in actually a higher pay column than what you're proposing.
Well,
That is a fact.
yeah, I mean, I would say there's a little bit of, I don't know how that designation got started in terms of going back and saying, you know, and why that same LRC person got paid the same rate as the people that Lisa described, and that you created a, you know, a special needs assistant that only can work with special needs students when the work in the LRC environment looks very similar to what an EA does. So I'm not sure how those job descriptions got developed, or why, if you were in special programs, it didn't matter whether you were working in a small reading group or working in a behavior classroom or in a, you know, a very medically fragile room, why those folks got paid the same. But that's something we're attempting to resolve and bring in more alignment with what other folks do.
So the district's contention is that the educational assistant, Title I assistant, the special needs assistant, LRC, are all equivalent, right? I mean, they're all
Largely the
same.
similar types of work.
Okay. I think that's where the rub is.
Yep.
Yeah. So, okay. So, well, is there no more questions? Okay. So, Article 4 is what you've seen before. We're waiting for responses to a number of things there. Article 9, we've shifted some stuff on the first page here. Up above below, or excuse me, up above here on definitions, I think it said for the purpose of this contract or something like that. I made it in blue. It popped up as an error, and I was like, I can live with it or without it, but it did seem to be cleaner this way. So that's why you see the 4 highlighted. It seems better set of structure that way. But definitely not the thing that we have to have. It's just, I think it just makes us look better, have a contract that reads better. But down below, I think we had 30 days. We've actually shifted this, and we believe this could turn out to be a win-win situation. By the time you figure, if you have 180 calendar days, you know, and we have days off for holidays, we have days off for conference, we have days off for various things, or I miss 5 days, or, you know, any of that kind of stuff. And one could argue maybe, depending if somebody has PLO but doesn't have the funds, or they're under, you know, family medical leave or something. I mean, it creates a lot of opportunity here for a chunk of this time to go by without you to be able to evaluate your employees, right? So we came with this in another area, and I got to thinking this seemed like a fair compromise, because we're always trying to shorten every bargaining. You know, it's part of one of the things the unions try to shorten that probation, because we want these people to become members and to feel secure in their jobs. But we felt that 90 worked days leaves that up to them. They either show up every day and they get through their day, which still is 4.5 months or so. They still have to get through all that, you know. But if they're gone for various reasons, real or, I guess they're all real reasons, but I would say reasons that maybe make the eyebrows go up, they don't have that count towards their time. It's the days that they work. That's the intent of this year. So for our folks, it could shorten down from about 5 months maybe, when you take out all those days, to 4.5 months. So there's a little bit of a incentive for us to agree to this. So that's the intent of that language there. Down below, the just cause provision. Dan made a good point that it's not really spelled out in every contract that I have, so I didn't see that, unless we want to, I didn't think we needed to actually put it spelled out in here like I had it in the original proposal. So this bundle, we just have a simple sentence, like a lot of them do. No employee shall suffer discipline or discharge only for just cause. And then all these things it talks about down here. Now there is, if you wanted to add some things in, like Dan, you were talking about, like if somebody had, commits a legal strike or something like that, we may come back and look at some of those what we used to call cardinal sins, and we could maybe put some of that back in here. But a lot of these things here are covered under just cause in this section. The written, they could go to the next page, the written reprimands. We have language at the top of the article about this, and it's also talks about progressive discipline or just cause. And then there is a piece down here. Why is that show struck out? Weird. So for some reason it shows struck out, but the blue below in 4 is not supposed to be struck out. It says, I basically left your language in here that's currently in the contract. Now, if we're to agree to this year, the language of the law says all classified employees. Now, my suspicion is the rulemaking committee was supposed to be done by the end of the calendar year, that they'll probably have a carve-out for probationary, people that are, not seniority yet. I'm willing to leave this in here, but with the understanding that if they come back and tell us we have to do it that way, we have to reopen and fix that. So just, that's part of this proposal too, just so you know. Because I can't imagine they wouldn't have a little grace period of some period for you guys to look at these people, and if it's not a really good fit, or, toxic work environment, or other things, When getting rid of some stuff up above here, it kind of altered the things down below. So you go down to B here, it says, a union representative will be provided. It used to say present at all stages, but taking out some of these pieces up above here. I take it back. I think I got this backwards. Part of this is supposed to be crossed out, but anyway, the due process part. But the reason being is that we have it covered in just cause, and then down below, that's why I added that sentence, will be provided, because it just doesn't read like a sentence that makes sense without these other pieces in the actual agreement.
Well, I think the issue that I would have with that particular language is will be,
Yeah.
The employee may elect not to have a union rep there.
Right.
And
if you provide one and they say no, then that's the end of it. They leave, right? I mean, that's not changing anything we do now, I believe. I mean, you have people that turn down union representation now, correct?
occasionally.
Yeah, I mean, that's not the intent. I mean, I guess if we need to word it in a way that makes you feel more comfortable with it, but the idea is, you provide the rep, they say, hey, Vance, I got this, I don't need you, and that's the end of it, right? Or Vance, please come sit down, right? So, I mean, that's the intent of the language. If there's a better way to say that. It just didn't read like a real comparable sentence without the other pieces. Like it was kind of one of a checklist, but the checklist is now gone because all these things like notice of charging its employee, opportunity to respond, these are all parts of just cause, right? So we don't need those things in there.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, and then down below here, we crossed out due process because again, we have just cause. That's the only change there other than renumbering. And if you go down to E, as Kim pointed out, we had the word suspension without pay, because obviously if you agree to suspension, but it's not I don't even know what you call that, I guess on administrative leave while you're suspended, you're not being harmed, right? And so many of our people live paycheck to paycheck that this would be the ability for them to either be found guilty of the process or accept the process at the beginning, but it's not suffer the consequences without actually being found to be in violation. And then down below, I left you a voicemail about this, Dan. I don't know if you got it in time, the appeals option. My understanding is this ORS is toast, so I've crossed it out in this contract, and it went away as July 1st it's been amended to not have a board process under the ORS. So please fact check me on this. This came in like the 11th hour, but I wanted to have it here to show you because we have the contract open. Let's get it out if it's not something that's legal anymore. And then the back page is what you've seen already. I don't know, you haven't really said you agreed to, but I haven't heard anything about not agreeing to this piece. I guess you'll let me know. Article 10, if there's no questions in the last one. Okay, Article 10. So what I did was, later in the agreement, you have article, section, or provision, right? I think if you turn to next page down here, under superintendent revenue, it says list of contract articles and sections or paragraphs there. So what I did is I tried to unify that so it's through the whole contract the same way. So you'll see it there. You turn the page. Board policy is crossed out here again because of the change of that ORS that it talks about on the next page. But you go down to the very bottom here and you'll see it based on a specific article, section, or provision of the agreement. So now we're uniform through the whole agreement, right? So, and that's the extent of those changes. So we backed off crossing out specific and a few other things that we were asking for there. And the board option, I definitely want you to look at that, make sure you're getting told the same thing I am with that, so we can.
I think I have heard that.
Yeah, it literally got tossed at the 11th hour, and I was like, whoa, put that in there. So, don't want to reopen for something like that if we don't have to. The next page, Article 15, you've seen it all before. I did catch a couple of grammatical errors. We had some numbers were spelled out with parentheses and some weren't, so that's what the blue is in here. I think where we're at loggerheads is over the lack of a better term, the God clause, the superintendent's denial. We're still stuck on that, and I think you guys are too. And then 16, there's nothing new because we're waiting for a response from your original proposal. And same with 17, with the exception of, I took to heart what you said on number 4, on the last page there. It says, it works through, you said, let's just call it Juneteenth, that's what we're talking about. I thought about it, it's Juneteenth or Independence Day are the 2 days we're really talking about. So I did list them in there very clearly. There's our bundle. Questions, concerns?
I do have a question. What's the rationale for 60 calendar days for a temporary employee versus the 90 days?
Sure. So the rationale is that if you're allowed to use substitutes, a lot of this gets blurred where we put temporaries into positions that have people that are gone on leave. So the idea is you won't need as many days because of that if you're using true substitute language. Also, the temporary language was originally meant to be, we have our maintenance team, our custodial team. Summer, things grow wild with all the, the grass grows wild, we need to get somebody to trim bushes. And we only have temporary work for them. It's like 60 days, it's like basically like, July and August, and then they're gone. They're not expected to, they're not covering for somebody the work's not expected to be there. It's truly transitional work like that. That's the idea.
What about our summer tech workers who are regularly here more than 60 days, like our students who come in for the temporary summer technician positions?
So you're talking about student workers specifically?
No, not
some
student
of them are
workers, but
graduated.
they've graduated, they come in for an opportunity to work with us for the remainder of the summer before college, and it is a computer tech position, and right now I have some who are working at least 65 days
Okay.
before they leave for school.
So it sounds like to me we're talking about the amount of days, which I think is, if you get examples like that, that's a great example of something that we could work with. The idea is to keep the work in the lane it's supposed to be, and it's temporary work. Exactly what you described is temporary work, we agree. But not to shift it over here, and that's why we're trying to modify the substitute language. So if 65 days is what's needed or whatever, something, that's really what we're talking about, right?
Okay, that makes sense, thank you.
Yeah. Well, nothing else?
So, no,
Oh.
so why, on that same thing, why couldn't it stay, why'd you cross out the yellow and just then put it in the 60 days up above?
Because what I had done is I crossed out the yellow, and I think the original proposal, but I put 60 days later when I talked about temporary workers. I realized I didn't put it in that section, so I guess we could leave it out. It is in the other section, but it makes more sense to have it kind of together. That was the reasoning for that. It just made it really clear that they're 60-day employees or whatever the day number is, and that's what they're supposed to be there for.
And then the substitutes can be used for the duration of the leaves
Mhm.
provided in this agreement. So,
Rather than spell out military leave, spell out, union leave, it just seemed easier to use that phrase to kind of be a catch-all for all leaves that you offer under the agreement, because those people have the ability to come back to their job. So it makes sense that you would want to cover them.
And would it make sense, like, reading this language, it would just be referring to local, state, and federal law in general, correct? Under the agreement, because for all
For
leaves.
Could we just say
I
the
believe-
duration of the leave?
I believe that's what it says in the leaves article.
Okay,
if I
I'm just
remember
making sure that
correctly.
I'm clear.
Yeah, it's meant to cover all the leaves that are in the contract.
Okay.
So that's the intent, right? Rather than spell out 30
Right.
different leaves, right?
Right.
So, and I think the leave article speaks to what you're talking about too, if I remember correctly. I know military's in there, a couple other things.
and then, let's see. So back to the grievance regarding a pay suspension. I mean, if we had a grievance that gets filed, that, I mean, that could take, a few months.
Yeah. Yeah, no, right, you're right. I think the thing about it is that why are we punishing them before we agree that they're guilty? One side agreeing that they're guilty is not agreement, right? That's
Well, I think-
and that's the concern. They're being punished and they're serving their sentence before the process is flushed out.
But I think the example you gave that it almost feels like a jury trial, that someone's going to either prove someone did something or not, whereas just cause is more, it's more around, process versus guilt or innocent. Did the district follow the process? I mean, because, it's not like we're going to have a jury come in and say they, didn't abuse their leave or did. That it's going to be, did the district follow, meet the just cause standard? It's not going to be, which it's not really a matter of proving someone's guilt or innocence. It's a matter of, did the district meet the just cause standard?
And you're
I mean, totally, and in some ways it doesn't necessarily really matter but your argument that somebody else is going to come in and say, district, this employee didn't commit the infraction that you're suspending them for. An arbitrator is going to say, district, you didn't provide proper notice.
Right.
District,
Or
you didn't.
Or you didn't apply the policy evenly, or you didn't make the person
Correct.
aware.
Yeah, all the different parts of just cause.
Right, and that could be part, but it could actually be that, there's cases that go, I think those cases merit this process too, but there's also cases that go up where we disagree. We've done our investigations, we disagree on facts. And we do need somebody it's a jump ball, we need somebody to decide who tipped it, right? And there is some of those cases, and I would say, I'm very proud of the fact that it's very rare that I've had that, because usually I make sure that we are all talking about the same thing. But sometimes we just, good people can just disagree, And so that could be a piece of it. But even if you set that to the side, because it is really small numbers. Let's say you didn't apply the policy, even-handedly with everybody. You just decided Ron's the problem, and all these other folks, you let them slide, right? Let's say that's the scenario, right? That is, just cause is a list of procedures. That's true, but whether you violated just cause or not is what an arbitrator would decide.
Right.
And that's the thing about that is, if you treated me differently than these other people, under the rules, that's a violation of just cause. So the district may say, we don't care, we disagree, we think we followed our processes, right? That's what they would be deciding. But in the meantime, number of our folks, what's the average report came out? The average classified employment is 30,000 a year, across the state. That 2 days is going to make a difference, or 1 day, or whatever, 5 days, or whatever the time period is going to make a difference for them making their bills for the month. Now, there may be people that come and say, you know what, I absolutely did this, it was wrong, I'll take my punishment, I deserve it. And we see that a lot too. But there is going to be these cases where we have a fundamental difference. Good people can have different opinions on things. And we want to get it flushed out, because the next time we will know, that gray area will be made black and white. We will know what is happening, what is the proper way. Because you can't legislate, you can't write contract language for every situation, and so sometimes we need those people to make those decisions. But if I didn't do anything wrong, right, why would I serve the punishment before I'm told I did something wrong, when both sides don't agree, by a third independent person, right? That's the intent of it. You also glossed over that we took off the stay unpaid leave through the process for the people that terminated. So just saying, we gave up a big one there. And then, to be fair, that's like maybe 50-50 on the contracts compared to the other thing. But it is something we did pull back in this bundle. So
That's all my questions.
all right. I mean, did you do any good fishing this weekend at least? No?
Yesterday,
Where'd you go?
out to the ocean.
Oh,
Yeah.
what'd you get?
Just bottom fish and crabs, but
Yeah.
a lot of people
well,
got a
you
lot
can't
of.
have halibut and bottom fish at the same time.
That's right. No halibut yesterday.
Yep.
A lot of people caught salmon though.
Yeah. Yeah, somebody took me up to a former employee, I say former coworker of mine, took me up to a place called Foster's Dam. I never been up there. And the boat's not working, so we had to go up the bank. Apparently they stocked a ton of those triplets, which I caught all mine and gave me. I don't usually eat most of those, but
Yeah.
I'm interested to see the kokanee fishing is there. So I'll have to see when to get the boat working. All right, well, thank you all.
So
We're going to respond to your proposal.
Okay.
And I guess you'll let me know if you're going to respond to it ours. 'Cause we got
I
quite a
think we
few.
can, I know you bundled a lot there. We probably aren't going to
Sure.
respond in a bundle, but I think there's some things here we can definitely work with on individual articles.
Yeah, there might be some of those that maybe we can sit down and agree to pull out of that bundle. It might make
Okay.
sense. They're real close.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So do you want to check in at like 2, just see where we're at?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. All right. Well, you gave us a lot to work on, so that obviously took a little bit of our time. So pass those down. They're paper.
Actually, we just have one counter. It'd be easier for us to go first. Hey, hold on. Would it be easier
Sure.
for us to go first? Only because we have one to counter.
Okay.
So, thought that might be simpler. I hope we're getting close on it. All right. So this was the professional growth training, all that stuff was kind of wedged together there.
Mm-hmm.
So we noticed that there was a section, the first two, 1, A and B, talk about what mandatory training and such. But there was no title for the second section, which was talking about background information, IEPs, the law, that kind of stuff. So we decided that we'd try to make this a little easier to read and put in there special education personnel. That's really what we're talking about there, unless there's something I'm missing. And then 3 was safety, and it's all the same language you had. We just broke it out so it's a little easier to read.
Okay.
That's all we did there. So that it's just when it's really big paragraphs, a lot of people it's tough, So we broke it out there. And then the other changes under B, we backed that date to May 1, that they got to notify. Without anybody who's enrolling in classes in spring should be covered. We know that that's coming. And then I think the remainder of the language to get to the back page is the same. We left this sentence in here because I know we had talked about this before, that if the benefits exhausted, the union and the district will need to address the matter. That was language we had in there before. I don't feel like it's overly cumbersome. We want to leave that in there. And down below, we changed that to July 31st instead of, I think it was June 1st or something like that, or July 1st actually, I think it was. But I think you guys said August. But we just felt like that was a long time to wait. We did agree that July 1st, you may not have all the grades in and all the stuff, and so that made sense. And then it's also a busy time of the year, the end of the school year. So we thought that date might work to accomplish what we're trying to do. So that's the crux of what we did in our caucus, and I think we're getting close, but maybe I'm being optimistic. I don't know. Is there questions? And I did use your proposal just to make it faster.
Sure.
Put some blue on the part that changed.
No, I think I think we're really close on that one.
Okay. I'm glad to see our time wasn't wasted. All right, now
All
we're
right,
ready for what
now
you got.
here we go.
Did you leave one for Lisa too? Leave one for Lisa too. Thanks. I want to make sure she gets hers. Do you guys need one? Okay. They only had a few, so you must have the rest, I guess.
So for the recognition article, we reworded the one sentence that you had added to say substitutes can be used for the duration of any leave provided by this agreement or under state and federal law, just to make sure it was broad.
Okay.
And then we would like to keep with 90 work days for temporary work. Oftentimes you've used the examples, summer seasonal yard mowing, those types of things. So we'd like to keep that with 90. We did want to retain the IV or 4 there. This last year we had a temporary payroll specialist, and that's a position. Obviously, we communicated with you around what our situation was. You understood what our situation was, but there may be times where we're especially with a one-off position where we have to engage in temporary work while we post a position. So during this hiring process, we might have, that would be the perfect example to say, we need to engage in temporary work here while we select somebody. So,
And I think that we've worked with you on those too in the past. I mean, on a case by case, obviously, but I don't see how that. I don't see how we couldn't agree to stuff like that in the future. I do feel like we've worked well together. Not just that, janitorial staff. We had an issue a while back where we agreed to use some temporary folks. You know, because we couldn't. You know, you had to get stuff done by the end of the school year, and we couldn't get people in there. And that was clearly outside of the contract, and we agreed with that. I mean, I feel like we work with you on those things because, you know, we don't want to be unreasonable when it makes sense, but it's a little bit different when we're talking about filling positions. I haven't seen you doing this, okay? Or if I have, it's been a while. I can't recall when. You know, but some groups, and we're all, the last 4 years, us three anyway, are different in this job and a few others here. You know, having language in there that allows people to use temporaries like that, and we get these situations where we're not filling these jobs because it's cheaper to use a temporary, right? And that's the concern from our side. So, and the consecutive days means what? Does that mean I start June 1st and 90 days later I'm done? Or does it mean,
Consecutive work
Yeah.
days would be their
The-
work calendar.
so is it the days they work? Or is it worked days? Or is it days like Monday through Friday?
We could clarify that with work schedule or scheduled work days, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I'm asking for a real reason. I just, people have different ideas and some of that. And Monday through Friday is usually whether you work it or not, is usually considered a consecutive work day. Some people play with that a bit. So that's why I'm asking
and your
the question.
proposal
I
was
see what
60
you're saying.
calendar days.
Because it's just real clear, that's why.
Right, and that just,
Right.
that, we were running into a barrier with like our summer work, and so we were trying to,
But would let's just, not that we're
Right,
arguing
right.
now, but just asking a question, would, like, if that's 90 calendar days, would that suffice for what your barriers you're running into? And keep in mind, you're just answering my question.
Exactly,
We're not agreeing to something across.
Well, yeah, because you could say, well, what if you just sporadically had this person coming
Yeah.
in?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I see what you're.
that's not what we're trying to
No.
do. I think we could come up with something
Okay.
that's clearer.
I'd struggle with leaving it open for my members because it could end up being like 4 weeks at the end of this school year and several at the beginning of the next, and that's really
Yeah,
not.
right.
see.
So
Yeah.
we
Okay.
need to get this pinned down.
But I do think we're close on this part of the article. I can't put anything on the back page. Nope.
Okay. Yep, we're getting close there. All
I think
right.
if we have time today, I might pull this out of the bundle and bring you back something today.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so with salary, we made one change to, I know that you presented this as a bundle, and so
Sure.
we are officially rejecting the bundle, but here is a counter proposal for salary where you had placed media assistant in G, and so we agreed with that, and so that's the one change on that chart.
Okay.
And that's the only change in that article.
Did you guys take some time to respond to the one-time stipends for, not just the annual ones, but because you already responded to that, but the one-time stipends for people who get certain degrees and that kind of stuff? And because we had some points that were kind of waiting back, PLO, some other things we're waiting to hear back from you on.
Well, so I think the thing about it is in looking at what was shared with you earlier is that, and we've had this conversation a few times about the priority levels. And so right now, as you look at, just in 3 and 4, or in 3, you're at a 28% increase in costs. And so we're going to need to see some prioritization of what all you're asking for. And so,
So I guess maybe I should be clear. Sorry, Dan, to interrupt you. I've heard this. I'm not being clear, I think. Is there any interest from the district to paying for PLO? or to offsetting with another benefit. Is there any interest to the district to, talk about stipends, one-time stipends for education? That's more what I'm asking. There's
Yeah.
this same proposal has been seen in many districts. None of them agreed to all of them. So that's what I'm trying to suss out here. Is this something you're just saying, not interested, don't want it at all, we don't bring it again, or is it something where you're saying, we might think about these couple categories under here. Maybe we could pay for PLO if this happens, right? You see what I'm saying? Like that's the piece that I'm trying to suss out.
I would probably say, and I'll look at Kim and so she can correct anything I'm about to say. I would say with PLO, the uncertainty at this point, I would say that that's probably safe to say that we're not interested in paying on that.
No, that's helpful because
Yeah.
if you don't respond, I don't know.
Yeah.
Right? So, okay.
We actually haven't looked at too many of the certification ones. I mean, we have some of those things are, if someone has a bachelor's degree, they're placed at a higher rate.
Would
We
it
might
be
be able to
helpful
look
for
at
me
it.
to send you what the other districts have agreed to, just so you can see what they've agreed to? It
Sure.
helps. Okay.
We do have certain practices already when somebody's hired, though. If they have a bachelor's degree, they are placed at a higher step when they're brought in. So a
For our
bachelor's-
folks too.
For our folks,
Okay.
for classified staff,
Okay.
if they have a bachelor's degree, they're placed higher when they start.
Okay. And where does that live? Like, is that a policy?
It's just a consistent and verifiable practice that we use. So it's HR's salary placement procedures.
Okay, it's procedure. Okay. Well, that's helpful too. Thank you.
So yeah, I mean, if we wanted to go through, and kind of see what our appetite is for certain aspects that we
it just
could.
helps me when I'm crafting
Sure.
the package to know
Yeah.
where your priorities are, if you
Yeah.
will. So it helps us to
Fair-
figure out
fair
where our
ask.
priorities are. So go ahead. Sorry.
All right. So discipline and discharge. Probably spent most of our time on this one, and so we went ahead and went back to current contract language around the probationary period. Obviously you were taking it one direction, we were taking it a different direction. So we came back and just left it at the 180 calendar days. And then excluding break periods. And we would like to, and so we did actually keep with our, and paid leaves in excess of 10 consecutive days. So,
Did somebody do the math on the back of the envelope to figure out how many days of that 180 they actually work? Since it is calendar, it's weekend, it's holiday,
no, we didn't. And we talked about that. I think it started becoming more, I think from the HR standpoint, it's just easier to be able to go send out reminder notices to principals and things like that to say, what's 180 days? Versus having all these employees and subtracting potentially leaves and things like that to say work days. So we thought it was easier to do 180.
Okay.
So.
Well, that's helpful information as well. Thank you.
And so we went ahead and, we looked at North Sandy AMS. They have a discipline just cause article, and it's relatively short, like 2 paragraphs and a sentence.
For now.
Okay.
They're bargaining right now too. Is what I'm
Yes.
saying.
So, so we restructured this, and first of all, I just want to appreciate your, on 2A, leaving that probationary employee language in there until the rules committee sorts that out. So we appreciate that. So then we kind of rephrased your language that a non-probationary employee will not be disciplined or discharged without just cause.
Okay.
Thought that was worded just slightly better. And then threw in, so we struck out a lot of this language going down as far as trying to list what people could be, because now with just cause, it should be relatively taken care of, like
Yeah.
you said, including progressive discipline. And then we, in looking at North Sandy AMS and others, having these administrative procedures, just struck all that language out. And then we went ahead and agreed with your strikeout of the appeal option. So we we think all that strikeout in 5 gets all of that 5A and B down to right there.
Okay. Yeah, I can see what you're saying. It looks very,
So it really trims down this article a lot.
yep.
And so we did, obviously, there was a couple things from the procedural part that we thought should live somewhere. So the, paid unpaid admin leave, we tucked it underneath the definitions. And then, we also, obviously, we need to have union representation, so we slid that into the,
3A.
yeah.
I see that. Where did you put the suspension piece?
Oh, it's not in there. That's one you're not gonna
Right.
see.
Okay.
All right, so the grievance procedure,
I'm going to tell you that I think we're getting closer on 9. Obviously, the committee will have to take a whack at it, but it feels like we're getting a lot closer on that one as well.
good. So we incorporated in the grievance procedure some of the things that some of them were from your initial grammar proposals that we'd never actually even
Right.
acknowledged. So, but we did like your addition of article, section, or provision. I think that's better. So again, some grammar things, and then obviously the strikeout of the school board piece of that. So,
Right. Okay.
and then work hours, work week.
Is this,
Did that?
It's just the same.
So it's not in there. So
Oh,
it is.
okay.
It is actually our previous proposal. So what you had proposed, what we appreciate the effort, but the it's a separate. So when the district probably should be wishes to change the employee's work time by adding or removing time to their total hours worked in a work week, and the employee agrees with the change, I mean, that's just not something that that piece right there is why we rejected that. So,
can you talk about our D?
yeah, on your proposal in 3, what's that D that you came up with?
Okay.
So that's the issue there, why we couldn't agree to that
And
language.
is that because you feel it should go through the union as mandatory, or?
No, it's our, what we, believed in this article has been that, we can adjust people's work week within their work group, within their employment status. So if they're 35 or more, we can make adjustments there. So we can make adjustments within those work group parameters. That's what we've believed we've been able to do. Within 30 minutes, and if it's more than 30, then, notify or have a discussion with the union. So I know we disagree on what that's meant, but that's,
I'm just going on what you and him tell me, so,
Yeah.
I wasn't here when it was written.
Right.
All right, we'll take another look at that.
and then, so I will say that the 20 to 35 hour group, I mean, that's a wide range to be able to have big fluctuations with. And that's not, we haven't taken the liberty to do that with people. We wouldn't want to take someone from, 34 and move them to 24 or something like that. That would, obviously, that would have to be discussed with the union before implementation, but that's not what we've never done that. Can't anticipate doing that. I mean, if we're cutting people's hours by that much, I mean, we're probably using the layoff and recall article or something like that. So I can understand the concerns. It's just, again, going back to what we said last time, I'd rather hash this out here and have a clear understanding of what it is before we go and apply, leaving the table here, agreeing to disagree, and then hash it out through a grievance process is not what I want. So,
Yeah, understood.
all right, so
3 class 4 the same.
is that,
19? That's good.
Did we do anything?
Just
Oh, we
small
just,
changes.
we caught your,
All the little errors.
the little errors, or the adding the 45 and the 10. Otherwise, yes, we still have, that not subjecting this to the grievance procedure
Sure.
unless the superintendent overrides the committee.
Okay.
And so then, what do we got next?
19.
Six. So, we talked to legal counsel during the caucus on B here. And what we were told was that you can do this if the employee agrees or if it's in a collective bargaining agreement. And so I guess my question for you is, when we have mid-year, departures, we do have money go out. If we don't have this language, we have money go out the door.
No, I understand your reasoning for it. I think
Yeah.
the next step for us is to have our two attorneys talk, because
Okay.
clearly, I mean, it's been extremely clear to me what
Okay.
they're telling me. So, I think we need to let them fight over it. And
Okay.
Give us a break, because we've tried like 4 times and mine was gone part of the time, and so it's just, I just think this is something that, quite frankly, is not what we're really talking about.
Right.
It's not the important piece of this article.
Right.
I just don't want it in here if it's against the law.
Right.
So I think I will make a note to have my attorney reach out to Brian, if you can let him
Yeah.
know what's coming.
Yeah.
And then that way they can figure out what's going on.
Sure. Yeah.
So maybe there's some decisions Brian's not aware of, or my attorney's not aware of, But at
Yeah.
least we can move past that and let them work on it.
Fair enough. And then we went ahead and added the tier 1, tier 2 language to D, as you had been asking.
Appreciate that.
And then our sick leave bank is slightly different than yours. Just wanted to call.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, call attention
Yeah,
to.
please.
You have an extra letter in there, which I think is actually you pulled
Oh.
something out of the
We broke it up. So people
the
could-
bigger paragraph, but I think there's a duplicate in there.
Yeah, I think we broke it down so it's just not that huge block of stuff again. So I thought that was the only change, but not the wording. But if there's a duplicate, then obviously that's not the case.
Well,
It's so unlike me to have typos down. I can't believe you're right about that. The beauty of bargaining on the fly.
so what I have is that 4 and 4A are identical. And then your B is different than our B.
But it's the same language, it's just numbered differently, I believe. Let me look. Oh, but did you say, are you talking about under 2? No, it should be 3. You're talking about the sick leave stuff, or are you talking about under the
Sick
bank?
leave bank.
Bank, okay. So let's take a look here. Oh, interesting. All right, so A is the same. Oh, it's B that's been split up, I guess.
The
Yeah.
second sentence is
Didn't
from
make-
B, didn't make it.
Didn't make the cut, huh? All right. Such a calculation.
It looks like maybe just the such got dropped.
Yeah, I think
Maybe.
so. Copy and paste
Yeah,
malfunction.
that's- yeah.
The intent was to just break it up to a little easier to read, so there's kind of points.
Well, and I see that you took an employee will not be eligible for the sick leave bank if receiving funds from paid leave Oregon. That's an RB, but you have it as D.
Yeah, yep.
So, and is that just, you're just trying to call it out
I think
louder?
No, I think we just split up some of the bigger pieces so that it felt more like we were doing a checklist, but we were combining certain points,
Oh.
like, you know, like you'd have like one here, and then you'd have like a paragraph with like 3 different points in it. It should be an ABC, so people can see these are all things you gotta do, not just part, you know. It's just stuff I've run into. People read the paragraph and they do the beginning, but they don't realize they gotta follow through all of it. So breaking it out into, these are the steps you must follow, right? Seems to make it easier is what I've noticed. That was the intent here. I
Okay.
didn't think I changed anything.
Okay.
The such does look like it was dropped, but that was cut.
And then
cut
we had
paste.
the only other piece, it looks like we had an E about the committee and the district will share necessary information to maintain accurate leave and payroll records.
Huh. Yeah, I don't see any reason not to have that. And I don't know why that's not in there. That's just me not doing it right. Wish I had a better excuse. It just must have been when I was altering all the stuff, I just saw that we had an E, didn't put it in there, but we're okay with that piece.
Okay.
Note here.
All right, is that the last one?
Well, going back to
Question about
sick leave.
holidays.
Oh, yeah. We did have a question about your holidays, but if you go.
Yeah, the sick leave, the 20-hour sick leave days before you cash, that kind of stuff. We're taking some other language. It's not exactly the same. It's mostly the same as this, but it's got different days and stuff like that. Or is the district just not interested in doing that at any stage for anybody?
I would
Go
not
ahead.
say we're not interested. We have not gone there because of the financial barrier that we ran into with Article 3 and 4. I'm speaking personally, I see what you're doing, and I think there could be some benefit. I'd want to talk it out because it's not subject to PERS, so I kind of,
Yeah.
I know, it kind of bugs me.
Yeah.
We want best value for the dollar, right?
Right.
If we're gonna pay something out, let's at least make sure it's PERS, you know, FAS, final average salary. So, not opposed to it, I don't think.
Yeah,
It's just another cost piece that, you know, we saw where we were at and kind of tabled, so.
No, and that's fine. I mean, it was, you know, something we had funded previously. But I guess, to your point about that, if I'm an officer and let's say they enter hours to retire, that's not PERS eligible either. It goes poof. So I respect what you're saying,
Yeah.
and we're willing to look at those other options, but that's why we didn't feel that was such a huge step for us, because those hours just go away. We're really punishing people that have been here every day. You know? Just a thought.
I think that one's, I mean, on the scale of some of the other things we're talking about, I think that would be higher than vacation for 10 and 11-month employees. I think that's, it's, you know, definitely above PLO. So I think that's one that's, you know, towards the up for consideration.
Well, I think 9 is to the point where, you know, probably it'll just be in bundles for basically that one piece, you know, because you don't want to agree to it now, and we can't settle it without it. So if we want it, so I think that's probably where that's going to be. But I just wanted to see if it was something that we're still interested in, maybe pursuing a conversation on. So it sounds like we're interested in talking about it. But
Well, and that, so you, during our last work session, you talked about some work groups or, you know, kind of subcommittee sort
Yeah.
of stuff. So, would there be interest in a subcommittee or a couple members of your team working on some costing? I mean, especially, so you're looking at this and figuring out, you know, because we didn't give you what, you know, 10 and 11-month vacation would cost. We didn't give you what that would, you know, the cashing out of sick days would cost, of just, you know, kind of playing with some figures and figuring out, would that be worthwhile for a small group?
yeah, I don't think there's anything. I mean, as long as we're not limiting it to just that issue, you know, because I think there might be some room to move another small committee on something else, you know. But and I hate to, you know, if we're going to do it, I'd like to do it, right? Because the point is to have people talk it through and then bring it back to the committees for adoption or dismissal, right? So I think we'd be fine with that.
Well, I think
Sorry, go ahead.
sorry to cut you off.
That's
But I
good.
think financials
Yeah.
are sort of a beast of their own. I mean, they're just,
They are.
you know,
Yeah.
and so one of the things with, you know, with the license group during, you know, this mediation, I mean, there was a lot of behind the scenes work going on the financial sides of things because they didn't want to present proposals that were not, just like you're asking, if this is a non-starter, tell us. You know, so it was the same kind of thing, and being able to effectively cost it, because there was also time lost when things weren't costed accurately, and then we were spent going back, well, actually, no, this is how much it costs.
Right.
And so I just think that finances are just unique.
No, and I'm not opposed to it. I'm just saying it. And to be honest, some of these other issues are kind of getting down to the final. So there may not be a need for a second subcommittee. I just don't want to
Sure.
limit us to just one thing, because if we're really stuck and have a couple people that are talking it through, and maybe they're going to come up with something different. You know, that's the only point I was making. But I don't think we'd have a problem with that. I do think with financials, we'd have to have a discussion about who's on that committee, simply because, you know, there's certain people that have certain roles that are a little more, I don't want to say held accountable. I think we're all held accountable, but definitely have to deal with some of the results of that a little bit more.
Sure.
So I think we'd have to have a discussion what that looks like, but we wouldn't be opposed to it, just as long as the understanding is that it's not bargaining and
No,
we're having
we-
a discussion, and just like our work sessions, and we're trying to work through stuff and figure out a way to do it.
And part of it is just allowing us to help cost things out.
Yeah.
So,
Well, no, and it's nice to have it when you guys cost the stuff out and have to go and tear it apart. And usually we also have somebody at the office that, you know, does that to see if we're talking about apples to apples or not. So it would definitely be helpful to do that on a smaller scale, where, you know, we don't have to line all these calendars for everybody at the table here, you know, since we're not bargaining. So I do think that would be helpful in that regard. Because I do think that there is room for a few of these, I think Kim called them side bucket proposals, you know, that will enhance, you know, Silver Falls as a district, where people want to come, want to stay, want to work, but also are slightly lower on the financial hit, you know. So I do think that there's room to move in that vein, and it'd be good to have a small committee to go through and take a look at it and see what that looks like. I think that is a good idea. And after our meeting today, if you want to talk about it, if you're that far along, you want to set up a date or something, because we don't meet again until, the 19th, so.
so we have a week and a half from today, and then we've got a couple weeks. So it would be nice if you're interested. I don't know, Kim. I mean, you're gone that week after.
Well, why don't we do this? There's a couple I'd like to try to get you responses back
Sure.
to today. We got about
Okay.
40 minutes. So why don't we caucus and work on
Okay.
that, and then we'll plan to be back here at 4, and then right after that we can quickly
Okay.
figure out. That way people look at the calendars too, you know.
That sounds good.
All right.
And we'll take a look at your training proposal.
Appreciate
See if we
that.
can TA that.
All right. So we thought we'd start with Article 2 here. I think we're real close. I highlighted the part where we're agreement with the green, and then just for old time's sake, I guess. But 90 calendar days on here. So we think that serves the needs that you brought to us. We think we can agree to that. We're done with this today.
Okay.
Article 10, we're pretty much agreeing with everything on here. There is one section when you turn the page. We had 30 days, and I do believe more time to be prudent to get the right facts is important. So we've backed that off to 15 working days there. So if that's agreeable, we're done with this one today as well. You brought North City AM, they have 30 days in there, by the way. And I think we're real close on 9 and 19 as well. We're just not quite there.
So on your previous grievance proposal, when you had the 30,
The 30 calendar days.
well, I mean, this is essentially the same.
Well, no,
Okay.
it's a week less. It goes from 30 days down, if you do actual calendar days,
Okay.
it's 3 weeks, 21 days. So
Okay.
it increases by 7, not by 15.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the middle of the road right
The
there.
break
That's
is
it.
the problem, yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Although,
if it's June 12th, you know, now that we have until September. Whose work days, I guess, maybe that's what we need to clarify then.
Oh,
Because work days isn't
it's-
defined somewhere, so.
actually, it is defined. I think it's days. that
Well,
it's open.
it's calendar days.
Yeah.
Now I will say,
It's calendar days in my original proposal. Work days would be Monday through Friday. That's, I believe. how
12
we
months a
have-
year,
Yes.
okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry.
It's not, yeah, I get
We
what
have
you're
all
saying.
these different
Yeah,
work
yeah.
calendar days, yeah.
I mean, I think we actually have something in the article that talks about the work days being days the district office is
district
open.
office is open,
Which
I
is
think.
12 months a year, so, for the most part. The rest of the proposal is yours for the sake of
Yeah.
time.
Okay.
I just added it to that.
all right. So we brought back training article. We didn't really want to call out special education. We felt like that still fell under the training language there.
Oh, okay.
We also, I understand that, breaking those out makes it easier to
Yeah.
read, but we actually feel that that's all kind of one, that all is, kind of how the process should work. It shouldn't be like, because when you break each thing out, it's, I don't know, it loses the fact that all of that goes together, that the employee, shall receive adequate training, and then the district is going to provide that training. The employees are supposed to use the safety equipment for hazardous, so it just feels like it belongs as a paragraph and not as isolated sentences.
Okay.
Um,
Can we have the header safety on it so people know what they're reading? I mean,
that we could do.
okay. Oh, I hate blocks of print. Go ahead.
Then we went ahead and accepted the May 1st date that you
Okay.
proposed in your last, and also accepted the July 31st date.
Okay.
But we kept the cross out of the funds being exhausted because we felt like that was part of the trade-off for increasing that amount, that we were increasing the amount, and so because we didn't want to have to figure out about encumbered or carry, if we need to come back. So I think in one of your previous proposals, you'd had that crossed out.
Could be. Okay. Yeah, and
it
that's,
was-
and
it
that's, I just didn't think it was controversial, because it just, the way I envisioned it when we put the language in there originally was that we'd sit down and have a discussion, like, what do we need to modify, what do we, to make it last longer, or if there was available funds, we could add to that too. I mean, no one option was, this is what you have to do. It's more having the meeting to have the discussion.
I think when we were back at 10,000, we were more open to like, hey, if we reduced it because we haven't been getting close to those numbers,
Mhm.
and so we reduced it thinking like, if we're going to start going above where we've been living, then we're not really interested in discussing again.
Sure.
So.
Okay. I understand.
All
Want to
right.
take 10 minutes for a quick caucus, or you got to get out of here?
No.
All right. Why don't you give us a minute with your proposal? We'll go first.
Go ahead.
So with the changes and the addition of the header, I assume you'll move 3 and 4 to like C and D, right? Since you're considering, yeah. We're okay. We'll be able to TA this tonight. We can make those minor changes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we have TA Article 2 ready to sign.
Okay.
So accept that. For the 90 calendar days.
Yeah.
And then we do reject your grievance proposal on the number of days.
No counter.
Well,
What's the tie to 14? Answer me that question.
well, it's the same number of
You
days.
brought up North San Diego. They have 30 days. The county's 30 days. Cascade is 30 days. And I know you want to be
mean,
just
we-
like everybody else.
We just tried to figure this out in the last, where we were talking about if I want a Saturday, Monday, I thought work days would be better, but
But more importantly, I think just making sure that we're bringing you a grievance. Because with 14 days, you end up in a position where you file it, you think you got this stuff, you throw the catch-all language in there, and then you got to go back and find the facts. And that, to me, is problematic because, I always look at everything as, what if it goes before an arbitrator? And not having good facts and then trying to figure it out after the fact, it just makes us, it doesn't, then we become arguing about the facts versus the actual issue that we're trying to get resolved. That's why I come up with that. The 30 days has worked really well, majority of my life, that I've been dealt with it. And it's really made it really clear what we're bringing to you, so you don't have to guess, you don't have to wonder, you don't have to meet to understand it. We meet to see if we can come to agreement on something or our positions. But I'll leave it up to you if you want to counter beyond 14 days, which I think was modeled after the law. That's where I think that comes from. But the law says 14 days to demand a bargain. So, anyway.
Well, I'll have to think about this.
Sure. We got two TAs today, 21
Yes.
and 2. All right, cool.
So are you preparing
For the 21, yes.
Yeah.
I had a clarifying question. I heard we wanted the safety title there, and what was the other change? that
Oh,
we-
just Dan said that he believed that 3 and 4 fell under training, so we just changed it to instead of 3 and 4, it would be C and D, right? If
C
it's-
and D?
Yeah, it'd be if it's part of that, it would just be A, B, C, D, right?
Okay.
Well, 2 more in the books.
Yeah.
All right.
So what about, we didn't look at our calendars, but what about work group or for?
A little subcommittee?
Subcommittee for salary or, kind of the compensation?
Yeah, I think that's fine. I mean, I would say we would limit ourselves to 3 people instead of the full committee, if that works for you. Wow, I have tomorrow wide open for some reason. Oh, wait, no, we don't. I lied. No, I have the 20th wide open for some reason. That's the day after our party, so that's not helpful.
And Kim, I don't know what you've got on your plate at all as far as July payroll and stuff like that.
When,
I can move the 13th if that's the day that works.
Thursday would be beautiful.
I can move what I have
and
then.
yeah.
And I apologize for putting you on the spot, Kim, if this doesn't work.
No,
for
that's
you.
totally,
Okay.
the 13th would work out very well. Yeah, it's just kind of knowing, we can provide the resources and the data as much as we can. Sometimes calculations are not quick, I
Sure.
will tell you that, and rushing through them does not ever bode well, I will tell you that.
You got Steve, right?
Might.
Put him to work. Just kidding.
But if there's any prep that can be done, we try to, get data together so that we can say, okay, if this number was to change to this, what would it do?
Yeah,
We try
yeah.
to have that together, but there's other things, the sick leave cash outs and the vacation awards and stuff, those are certainly more complex, and so trying to
Well, I
be
think
as
if we
prepared
have-
as possible.
If we have ballpark, I mean,
Right.
I mean, average versus like specifics.
Right.
I hope that would save time too. And then I think if we have a ballpark of what we're talking about, I mean, that's okay too. Because if we investigate and decide it's something we really want to dig into, then we could dig into the more deeper numbers. But finding out roughly what things cost and how we want to look at that is the first piece of that puzzle, I think, right?
For sure.
So
Absolutely.
so
Yeah,
yeah.
whatever resources we can share, that helps everybody, right?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I agree. So what time? So apparently you get to make all the decisions for the 13th.
I am flexible, so your team,
Yeah, I think earlier is better for us, but it
Okay.
really is kind of, I don't know who your 3 people are going to be, so
yeah, I'm not,
I figure one of them's right there, but
Well, I'm not sure.
yeah, it's up to, I don't know what your day looks like if you want, but
well, I don't know if you want to be there even. It's a committee meeting, so
it's.
it's up to you.
I mean,
It's an informational.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah.
more of an informational piece,
Yeah.
so it's not a matter of me
Yep.
Yeah.
bargaining or
Oh,
weighing
no
into
bargaining
this,
in this
you know.
meeting.
Not at all.
You know,
Not
so
at all.
I don't necessarily need to be there.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So,
The only reason that I'm gonna be there is because of some of the resources I have available, like
Absolutely.
make phone calls and things like that, so. Or else I would, be out fishing instead, you know that. So.
I don't know, the
sounds
weather
like
does
it's
look good
you.
Thursday.
It's better when it's overcast, fish can't
That's
see.
true.
each
So
other.
how
there
much
you
time do you
go.
want to allocate? An hour?
I'm pretty wide open until.
If 10
early
a.m.
afternoon.
works, that'd be
Yeah,
a great start
for
time
me.
for us.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I haven't pulled up any other calendars, but
I mean, is a couple hours enough? So 10 to noon?
Yeah.
Okay.
block it out and.
Yeah.
if
And
we
Kim,
don't
go ahead
need
and
it-
include me on that.
Yep, I'll. Yeah.
And then let us talk and we'll email you down with our 3 people. I mean, me and Vance, or we'll
Okay.
with the third
Yeah.
person.
And if there's any other, prep work, please do let me know. I mean, we have a lot of,
Why don't we send a list to Dan of what we want to look at in that
like,
meeting?
what
Yes.
kind of, yeah, that would be
Yeah.
really great.
That might
Thank
be
you.
a lot
Yeah.
simpler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, no more guessing.